Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Valley Bible Studies podcast. You know what's really awesome, Luke?
A lot of things, but what are you going to say?
Just say what.
What,
For
KT?
once, just
what is awesome?
It doesn't have to be smart. Just
what is it?
like, what, KT? What's
Please
on
tell
your mind?
us what is awesome.
See, now you're okay. You know what? I don't even know if I want to anymore.
Okay. This has been a great episode. I hope you guys will listen to the next one because we might actually say something.
You know, it's really funny. On the podcast, you're the jerk, but in real life, I am.
That's very true.
Yeah. No, what I was going to say is that it's spring break.
Yes, it is.
A lot of different school systems, a lot of colleges, universities having their spring breaks in different times and whatnot. It's Freed Hardeman's spring break. It's our spring break. And yeah, really awesome. We've got some people from school back in town.
Yep.
I get to spend the week with my daughter.
So the kids in the youth group actually asked, again, and this is why we have the greatest youth group ever. Like, they asked me, hey, can we do a group Bible study sometime this week? Because, like, everybody's off and just the people who can come can come.
That's awesome.
We have the best teens ever.
We do. I agree with that.
Like, my job is so easy because...
They're pretty sweet.
Well, because they're awesome. Yeah.
So, to get us started with this episode, other than the things that we've already said...
to get us started a minute and a half in.
Yeah. Dose of dopamine. So I thought about this one. Currently, I'm enjoying one right now. My dose of dopamine is having an Arnold Palmer, which for those who don't know, half sweet tea, half lemonade. Best. Oh man.
Fantastic combination.
It's so good. So a nice cold crisp Arnold Palmer on a high 60s, low 70 degree weather on the golf course.
That's pretty good.
Sun out.
I don't golf personally, but just that situation, I'm in.
Sun out, light breeze.
Yep.
I'm not very good at golf, but just in that scenario, that just brings you the
Arnold Palmer and golf do sort of just go together.
Well, Arnold Palmer was a golfer.
I know that. I heard how it sounded as I said it.
A pretty good one too.
Uh-huh.
No, they do go together. The weather's starting to get
fantastic. Every day outside is gorgeous.
Loving it. It's been a little windy, but like overall, man, the temperature has been spot on.
Mm-hmm.
So hoping this spring break
continues that trend.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, hope so.
Yep.
What about you, man?
So mine is that I had a birthday this past week.
Happy birthday, Luke.
Thank you.
I did text you. I got you a present.
You did. Whatever. You did. Yep. Mm-hmm. But more than that, like more than just the birthday, because the birthday is whatever. Like,
well, it only happens once a year.
The birthday itself is like whatever. But the fact that this past birthday, I got to see all of my family in one day, like all of my family on my birthday for the first time since I think 2020 was the last time we actually all got together for my birthday.
That was a bad year.
Yeah. This redeemed it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, everybody together.
Good.
On the birthday specifically. That was pretty cool.
You got a nice family, too.
Yeah, they're cool.
They're good people.
Yeah, they are. A lot of them listen to this.
Ooh.
Hey, guys.
Oh, hi.
Love y'all.
Hi. I didn't know that. I'm really glad.
It's fine.
I'm really glad you said you're good people and not something else.
Not something sarcastic that would have made them not like you anymore.
I guess I need to start being nice to you on the podcast.
Or just in general, that would help.
That's not as fun.
That's not realistic either. Anyway.
That's kind of what our friendship's built around.
We mess with each other.
We do, yeah. I feel like there's no true friendship if you don't kind of, pick on each other every now and then at least.
For sure.
Yeah, that's why we're friends.
Yep.
That's not why we're friends. Actually, why we're friends is kind of what brings us to what we're talking about
That's
here
a good point.
And throughout the rest of the year. So
seamless segue. Just let it be a seamless segue.
I kind of forced it. Anyway, so far this year, we've been talking about the plan of salvation and what that looks like, the steps to take biblically, not what KT says, not what Luke says, not what anybody else says, but what the Bible offers.
Yep.
Right.
And so this episode and next are sort of a continuation of that, but also sort of their own thing.
Yeah.
Because, you can't really, as we said in the episodes leading up to this one, you can't just do the steps of salvation and then you're good, right? That's not how it works. And I would argue the biggest part of, okay, now that I'm a Christian, what do I do next? We're going to discuss today and in the next episode.
Yeah. You can kind of look at it as like a sequel sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like the first part is following the plan of salvation, hearing, believing, repenting, confessing, and then being baptized for the remission of your sins. And then, hey, you're a Christian. But
now
then
what?
But then it poses the question, then what?
Yeah.
And that's kind of this for this episode and for the next. That's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the different aspects in a Christian's life and how to live as a Christian, how to behave as a Christian, and how to hopefully have other people become Christians as well.
Yep.
Because it's not going to happen overnight.
Yep.
Somebody took the time, somebody took the effort to talk to you about Jesus.
Even if it was your parents. Like,
yes,
we both grew up in the church, but at some point back in our family's history, somebody had to be the first person to tell our family about the gospel.
Right. And there are millions of people in this world that do not know Jesus.
Yep.
So why shouldn't you be the person to tell them about him? And so that's inherently what we're talking about today. How to behave as a Christian and what that looks like in the world that we live in today.
Mm-hmm.
Using biblical references, obviously.
Yep.
Because we're not.
That's sort of the whole point.
Yeah, because it's not about what we think, it's about what he thinks.
And then specifically within that, today's topic and next episodes especially are evangelism. What does the gospel plan that we've shared so far in the first 5 episodes, what does sharing that as a Christian and then as a congregation look like?
Right, because if you're living correctly as a Christian, now, when I say correctly, I don't mean perfectly, because that's not going to happen.
That's different, yep.
So when you're living correctly as a Christian, you're going to be evangelizing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're going to do.
That's literally the last thing that Jesus asked us to do before he left,
yes.
is to tell other people about him.
So first step is to live a Christ-like life, basing everything that you're doing off of what Jesus did. Because if you have a perfect example, you'd be pretty dumb to not try.
To follow it. Yep.
Right. That leads us to Matthew 5:16.
Okay, so that's where I was going to.
Go for it.
So, Sermon on the Mount, right?
Great sermon.
He intros with the Beatitudes, which are a series of, blessed are this kind of people because this thing. And typically, the things that he says in that list are things that we don't see ourselves as wanting to be, like poor in spirit, mournful, hungry, thirsty. That's not who we want to be if, like, we're deciding. But then he says, if you're these things in a spiritual sense, you will be provided for and cared for in this sense. So the one of those that's the easiest for me as far as, like, making that example play out is when he says, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, because they will be filled. When he says that, what he's saying is not literally like, blessed are you when you are really hungry, or blessed are you when you're really thirsty. What he's saying is, when you want what's right, you'll work for what's right and you'll find it.
Yeah.
That's sort of what the Beatitudes are. So that's the intro. And then he says, you're the salt of the earth, but if salt has lost its flavor, how shall its saltiness be known? It's good for nothing except to be thrown out. You're the light of the world. A city that's set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. And then verse 16, in my mind, is the thesis statement. If you think about it as like a paper or as a sermon or whatever.
Way to get academic. Go ahead.
Thank you. Verse 16 is the thesis statement of the Sermon on the Mount. The rest of the Sermon on the Mount is about this. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. If you're the kind of person who is thinking spiritually, if you're the kind of person who is working for and looking for the spiritual blessings that God has to offer, you're the kind of person that's going to live that out in front of other people. And the point of that is not for you to get glory, not for me to get glory. The point of that is for God to get glory.
Yeah. It's almost the whole thought of don't talk about it, be about it.
Yes.
You know, it's one thing to tell people who Jesus is, but it's another to show them.
Yes.
And I think that's something that, because it's also very simple for someone who that isn't a Christian that sees you and you say, oh yeah, I love God. Oh yeah, I love Jesus. Oh, read your Bible, pray.
Well, so to that point, that's in chapter 7.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and don't do the things that I'm asking you to do?
I can't tell you how many people in the profession that I work in, both educationally and in sports, that they're very quote unquote God-centered, and then their actions, when you see them out in certain places or maybe across the field from you, you know, those actions are going to be very different than the thing that they're posting on Facebook or whatever.
For sure.
So again, that's a very don't talk about it, be about it kind of scenario, letting that light shine rather than showing people or telling people that you have a light and then hiding it.
Well, the next thing that he says after verse 16 is, don't think that I came to abolish the law and the prophets. I did not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. And so where's the guide that we have in order to understand how to live, how to give God glory? It's the law and the prophets, which would have been shorthand in Jesus' time for saying the word of God. Ergo, the Valley Bible Studies podcast.
Hey, nice.
That's us.
Well done.
Yep.
So like the lifestyle that you live should reflect what Christ is doing in you, right? Christ living in us, being things like honest, kind, and loving, right? All those things, if you act that way to someone that you're trying to at least tell them who Jesus is, they're going to be much more receptive to what you're saying, opposed to, hey, you're doing things wrong. You're living a wrong life.
Yep.
Let me tell you how to do it right.
So we actually talked about this in the auditorium class at Westside recently. The verse was brought up, Ephesians 4:15, which is where Paul says, speaking the truth in love, and we talked about the fact that you have to have both, right? You can't love somebody into them getting their doctrine right? You can't just say, you're doing awesome and I'm so proud of you, when they're not doing what God asked them to do. You can't have the love without the truth.
Hot take, that's called gentle parenting.
Yeah. Oh. Pretty much, yeah. But
sorry, not sorry.
But on the flip side of that, you can't just beat the truth into somebody.
Agreed.
Without
there has to be
that's what you're saying there.
Yeah,
but
there has to be
the balance between
Correct.
the two.
Because in everything you love, or in everything that you do, you do it out of love, right? I'm not going to punish my children because I want to, you know? I'm not going to punish them for punishment's sake. I do it because I love them. Right. God's going to do the same thing.
And I'll say from an evangelist perspective, as somebody who tries to be an evangelist perspective, you're going to catch a lot more flies with honey than with vinegar. Yeah. If you start with, here's what you're doing wrong, no one's going to want to listen to you.
They're going to close their ears and they're going to want to walk away.
If you start with, hey, I love you, God loves you, Christ came and died because he loved you that much, there are some things that need to be fixed, but they're being fixed out of that love.
Yeah. And it's also, so kind of going from that same approach, maybe not think of it as fix, maybe to think of it as like, hey, let's work on this together.
Yeah.
You know, because as soon as you say things like, hey, fix this, or like, we need to fix this, we need to change this, then in their mind, they're automatically thinking, I'm doing something wrong, I'm the worst. To where if you're like, hey, can we work on this? Then it's not necessarily, hey, you're the worst. It's, there's room for improvement, you know? Yay for all the psych classes in undergrad. Woo.
Well done.
Actually, no, a lot of those came from grad school.
Well, but they're supported by the Bible because, like, think about it. Where does it say all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God? Yeah. That's Romans 3:23. True statement. But way before God says that, he takes the time in the very first chapter of the Bible to tell you that you're created in his image, and because of that, you're worthy of him valuing you.
Yeah. So it's having the understanding that love is always there, and how to use it.
Yep.
How to go about it, because it's very it's a very sensitive and touchy subject.
Yeah.
And that leans into the next point. You know, it's to our whole purpose as an evangelist would be to love and to serve others. John 13:35. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another.
Yep.
The only way that people are actually going to know that we care is if we show them. The only way people are going to know that we love them is if we show them. There's no, because if you just say, I love you. I love you too, I guess. You know? But if you go and show them
Don't light your lamp and put it under a basket.
Yes, sir. If you show them that you love them and then say, well, I'm doing this because I love you.
That means a lot more.
It means a whole lot more. I mean, again, let's look at Jesus. Why did he go on the cross? Why did he take the beatings? Why did he take all of the cursings and the people screaming and yelling at him and hating him? He didn't do it because he loved the attention. Mm-hmm. He didn't do it because he was a narcissist. He did it because he loved you and me. And
then in response to that, 1 John says we loved him because he first loved us.
Yes.
We don't just go through the motions because it's what we were taught, right?
Yeah.
It was what we were taught, and we were taught it for a reason, but we don't just do it because it's what we've always done. We do it because we love God, and this is what he asked of us.
And it's also when you care for other people, it's not just, you don't do it out of necessity. You do it because you want to, because it's a genuine love. It's a genuine caring for others, right? You're helping those who need help. You're being patient with those who need just a little bit more time. Your actions are going to speak a lot louder than your words.
Yep.
The things that you do are going to show people how you really feel.
And even more than that, this is one of those statements that I've sort of beaten into the heads of our kids here at Westside.
You're beating our kids?
No. Just beating them with the truth. Which, again, speaking the truth in love. That's what I'm talking about.
There you go.
But one of the things that I've taught them, I hope that if I've taught them anything, this is one of the 2 or 3 statements towards the top. Christianity is not something you do, it's something you are.
Yep.
If you just
I've heard you say that.
If it just make it a practice, then it's not going to work because you can give up any habit.
Yeah. If you really wanted to.
If you wanted to, or if you're under enough stress or pressure to give it up, you could give it up.
Yeah.
You can't give up who you are.
No.
If you make it a part of your identity, that's who you're going to be. And when you do that, the actions follow.
Here's the thing. Who you are really shows when things get stressful, when things get rough, when life is really hitting you hard. That's when the real you is going to come out.
Yeah.
And it so patience is one of those things. So if somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, Luke, I really need help with this," and you're like, "Yeah, okay, I got you. Let's go do it." And then you go do it. The next day, "Hey, Luke, I really need help with this." "Okay, yeah, let's do it." "Okay, sure. Let me go help you." The next day, "Luke, I really need help with this." "Okay, yeah, let's go do it." "Sure." And then you go help him. And then the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day. And then eventually, "Hey, Luke, I need your help with this." "All right, fine. Yeah. Well, what do you need?" They're going to see that.
Yep.
It doesn't matter how many times you helped them before. As soon as they see that,
I'm doing this even though it's not convenient for me.
You're a burden. I really don't want to. You can look at that a couple of different ways. One, sure, you can look at it from wow, I really don't want to, but I know I need to. Or you can look at it from, yeah, I know I need to help you, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
It's got to be that genuine.
Again, we've talked about perspective over and over and over and over and over again. And that's one of those things. How do you view other people? Are they burdens or are they opportunities? Yeah. Are they things that make life harder? Or is this your chance to show somebody Jesus?
Yeah. Because here's the thing. A lot of people, again, I'm going back to the psych stuff. Goodness. A lot of people, you could do the right thing a bajillion times.
Yeah.
But as soon as they see the one time that you slip up,
that's what they're going to focus on.
They're going to really notice it.
And if that's what they're looking for, that's another perspective thing that has to do with evangelism. If I'm going out, I'm a new Christian, I'm gung-ho for it, let's go and convert people. If I'm going out, or even I'm however many years into it, if I'm going out and I'm trying to find people to evangelize to, if I'm looking for reasons that people aren't good enough for the gospel, I'm going to find them.
Yeah.
If I'm looking for reasons that people are worthy of the love and truth of the gospel, I'm going to find them.
Yep.
That's how it works.
Yeah, I had heard somebody say it. I don't really remember where I heard it the first time, but say you get on social media and you post something that is factually accurate and has sources to back it up.
Mm-hmm.
How many hits is that going to get? How much attention do you think that'll get?
Not a ton.
Not a ton. But if I get on Facebook, if I get on Instagram, if I get on
say something nuts,
Twitter or X now, whatever it is, and I get out and I say something that's like completely false, like so out there, so ridiculously wrong, that it's absurd. How much attention is that going to get?
Way more.
A whole lot. Why? Because people love to tell you that you're wrong. They love to point that out. And so, hypothetically, say we're in that situation where you're doing absolutely everything that you can to live for Christ. You're doing your best, right? And then you do something wrong. And somebody notices it. And they try to call you out on it. What should our first response be? I'm not perfect, but that's why Jesus bled for me.
Yep.
Because that blood cleanses me. And so knowing the truth, knowing the Bible, knowing your sources, that's something something that I tell my students all the time when especially when it comes to LEQs, DBQs, things where they have to.
It's been so long since I thought about those.
Could you not go blah when I'm trying to talk about my teaching?
All right. Sorry, go on.
No. So, but when hear me out. Okay,
go on.
They're always like, Mr. Luckett, can we blah, 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 blah. Can we talk about this? Can we talk about that? Can we talk about this? Can we talk about that? You know what I always say?
What's that?
I don't care.
You can talk about whatever you want.
That's exactly what I tell them. You can talk about whatever you want as long as you can back it up.
Yep.
As long as your argument makes sense because you have proof that you're right.
Yep.
And
that's how evangelism works.
That's exactly how evangelism works.
If you can't back up what you're telling people about Jesus, maybe you shouldn't tell them that about Jesus.
If what you're telling them, and that's kind of another point, is that they're writing their papers, yada yada yada, and if I've told them this, and I've seen this on papers, and I've graded this. Well, I feel like my opinion is
wrong.
I think
nope.
I don't care what you think. I don't care what you feel. I do not care. If you do not have substance, if you don't have something that
evidence,
if you don't have some sort of proof to tell me that you're right, that isn't your opinion or my feelings, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to, because here's the reason, it's going to be the same thing with the Bible. Yep. It's going to be the same thing with people's, because everyone feels something different. Everyone thinks something different. I've got a book
that tells me everything I need to know.
That tells me left from right, up from down, yes and no, right and wrong. And the whole, we'll go back to the thesis, right? Because the thesis, when you're writing a paper, the thesis is the most important thing. When
the rest of the paper is backing that up.
When you write that thesis, everything that you say needs to be able to connect to that thesis.
Yep.
Right? Our thesis is that Jesus loved me enough to die for me.
Our thesis is the gospel.
Yes. So what am I going to do?
I'm going to prove it.
I'm going to prove it. And when somebody says, well, why are you doing it like that? I've got my sources.
Yep.
Well, why would you do this? I've got my sources.
Yep.
And it's all tying back.
Which, once again, emphasizes the need to study the Bible for yourself. Emphasizes the need to not just know the bare minimum, but actually get in there and figure out what the different books of the New Testament are about and what the overarching story of the Bible is and what verses back up which points.
So do you know what verse I want to go to
Ergo, the Valley Bible Studies podcast. But okay. Go on.
Well, yeah, but do you know what Bible verse I'm thinking of?
Is it 2 Timothy 3, 16 and 17?
Actually, no, 2 Timothy 2:15.
Ah, I was close.
You were close.
Rightly dividing the word of truth.
That was wonderful guess, though.
I mean, they kind of support each other. Yeah. It's almost like the Bible supports itself.
Wow.
Especially like in the same book, a chapter apart. But
crazy.
But yeah, like
he's writing to Timothy. Like Timothy needs to know things. Yeah, 2 Timothy 2:15. Do your best to present yourself to God as one that's approved. A worker does not need to be ashamed, but who correctly and divides or correctly holds the word of the truth. So,
and how do you do that?
How do you do that?
Well, 2 Timothy 3,
there you go.
16 and 17. all Scripture, not all opinions, not all what
not
I
all
come
thoughts, not all feelings,
not all what I come up with on the basis of Scripture. All Scripture is given by inspiration of God, is profitable for doctrine, reproof, correction, instruction, and righteousness. Notice 4 different things at the end of verse 16 there. Doctrine. This is what we believe. Not because we believe it, but because this is what's correct.
Yeah.
For reproof. When I get something wrong, because I'm human and I'm gonna, I can double back to the Bible. And not only can I prove it to myself the first time, but I can reproof it. I can reprove it to myself and to anybody who asks me, because I have that standard to go back to. For correction, when somebody else gets something wrong, because they're human and they're gonna. In love, I go to them for the sake of correcting them on the basis of this objective standard.
Right.
And then for instruction in righteousness. It's not just about getting rid of the bad, it's about replacing the bad with something good. It instructs me not only to get rid of the things in my life I need to get rid of, but to add the things that God asks me to add so that righteousness can follow. Yeah. And then verse 17, what's the result of doing all 4 of those things? That the man of God may be complete. Like you said, not perfect, but complete.
Yep.
Thoroughly equipped for every good work.
Yep.
I continue to do good works, even after I'm complete, even after I've got it figured out, which, again, you're never going to do perfectly, but you can do completely.
Yeah.
And I continue to do the good works that it equips me for as I do so.
Right. And that kind of leads us into the next point is, with all the information that you have, what is it that you do with it? You got to be ready. So our buddy Christian, who sadly just moved away to a completely other state. I don't know what it is that I said. I don't know where I went wrong, but I know it's my fault.
It was probably us, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, Christian, if you're listening, we miss you. Hope you're doing well.
We only hate you insofar as we miss you.
Yeah. They're synonymous.
Yeah.
Aaron, same thing with you.
Yep.
We miss you. But how dare you? Anyway.
Hi, Steve.
Something.
We love you. Steve's good.
The man. Steve's the one that stayed. So.
Anyway.
What
was your point?
That was unscripted. My point is that Christian likes to lift weights a good bit.
Yep.
He's really good at it.
Yep.
And
a lot better than me at it.
You and me both, man. If you walk up to him and just like grab him by the shoulder and be like, "What's up, man?" It's like you're grabbing a softball.
Yeah.
Like his trap it's like a softball.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so anytime that I would say like, "Man, you're doing really good," like you lift great. Like, I'm proud of you. Yeah. He always looks at me and he goes, "Stay ready and got to get ready." I'm like, whoa.
That's a very Christian thing to say.
I'm like, whoa. You're not wrong, but whoa.
Yeah.
And then, think about it. As a Christian, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean that if you don't know something that you're the worst. That's not what we're trying to say.
It doesn't mean if you don't have the Bible memorized that you're a failure.
Yeah, like Luke.
No.
I'm not saying, wow, hold on. I'm not saying Luke's a failure. I'm saying Luke has the Bible memorized.
Either way, it's untrue. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, if you don't know something, the best response that you can have is,
I don't know. Let me go study that.
Right. I don't have that information right now, but I will have that information.
But the Bible does.
Yes, and I will get it to you as soon as I know.
Mm-hmm.
Because what that does is that tells them, hey, I'm not perfect. I don't know everything, but I care enough about you that I'm going to go find out.
And there is an objective standard where I can go to find out.
Yes. I'm not going to go ask this person. I'm not going to go ask that person. I'm going to go to the
source.
Let
me study what the Bible has to say on that.
Because it shows them that you actually care enough to go and do some work for them.
Yep.
However, it is nice and it is a good idea to familiarize yourself and understand the Bible well enough to where you are ready for those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Because you think about it, if somebody comes to you with a bunch of questions, or if somebody maybe even wants to argue with you about something that's biblical or even not, and the Bible is your basis for your argument, it'd be a pretty good idea to know what it says.
And I'll say, we did the things that we did at the beginning of this year first for a reason. Number one, because if anybody's listening to this podcast or reading the studies that we put out who's not a Christian, that's how to become one. Mm-hmm. But number two, if you are a Christian, maybe you're a new Christian, or maybe, because of different circumstances and situations, if somebody asked you on the street today, like, how do I become a Christian? And you don't know the answer to that. This is why we've started where we did.
Yep.
Because that's the most important question you can be asked.
Well, that's another thing. Everybody's got to start from somewhere.
Right. And a large part of the battle of evangelism is meeting people where they are.
Yeah. Because it's also one of those things where it's, you're never too far gone. Mm-hmm. You're never too lost. And it's never too late.
Yeah.
There is never a prerequisite or a requirement or qualifications for obeying the gospel.
You're outside of the scope of grace.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's there for.
But on the flip side of that, what Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians 9 is, I have become all things to all people, so that I would even have a chance of saving one of them. And he says, to the Jews I became like a Jew. To the Greeks I became like a Greek. What's he saying? He's saying, I didn't abandon the truth. I didn't abandon what God has said. I didn't abandon the gospel. But insofar as me adapting to the culture or the history or the social norms, whatever, I will adapt without compromising the truth, but I will adapt in as far as I can.
Because everything can change.
Because I need to meet people where they are.
Everything can change about you except the foundation of who you are as a Christian.
To connect this point and the point that we just made about studying and discipline and those things, he ends that conversation by comparing himself to a boxer and a racer. And he says, I'm not just like beating my fists at the air. It's not like my study and my discipline and all those things has no point. I have a standard that I'm looking for, and I have people that I'm looking for to try and reach the gospel with. And so I run the race with the goal in mind.
Yeah. Well, and so
it takes discipline.
It does, and it kind of takes us to the next point of having and building relationships with people. It's not like I know people that you're at the gas pump and you're filling up your car, and you see somebody and you ask them, hey, do you know Jesus? Is that the best approach? Probably not. But is it about
99 times out of 100? Probably not.
Yeah. But is it wrong? No. Shoot your shot. You
might as well.
You might as well. Aaron, if you again are listening, so Aaron, when we
still hate you for moving, but
okay, hate's a strong word.
We still dislike the fact that you moved, but
yeah, it's accurate. But it is strong. No, so when Aaron and I were teenagers, mm-hmm. I mind you, Aaron came up with a devotional talking about evangelism, talking about the efforts that you need to put forth for evangelism. And the analogy that he gave was, imagine you're out on a lake or river or whatever, and you're fishing. If you were to only cast your line once, how many hits could you get? Not will you get, but could you get?
One.
Well, then what do? If you don't get a hit, do you just reel it up and say, I'm done for the day?
0 for 1, I'm going home.
Right. No, that's ridiculous. You put it back in the water. And if you're a real smart guy, you'll bring maybe 2 or 3 rods with you, and you'll put them all in there. If you don't get something, okay, you reel it up, you cast again.
Or find a different spot or something.
But you keep casting, because the more casts that you set out, the more hits you can get.
The more hits you will, but the more hits you can.
The more we try to evangelize, the more we can. Yep. The more we possibly could.
That's a very good point.
That does not mean that everyone's going to say yes, but they can't say
they won't.
But they can't say yes if you don't drop your reel, if you don't cast into the water.
Well, Jesus even tells his apostles in Matthew chapter 10, the first time he sends them out, he says, there are going to be people who hear you, there are going to be people who don't. And he doesn't say, like, the majority will, the majority won't. He doesn't say the majority won't. He just says, there are going to be people who accept it, there are going to be people who don't. Just because somebody doesn't mean you stop, or doesn't mean you stop trying. It does mean that you try in a different way. It does mean that you try in a different place, or using a different strategy. but it doesn't. A letdown or a misfire should not end your evangelism as a person or as a congregation.
No,
because you're going to have people who, I mean, Jesus had this, right? He had people who he preached to, and their lives were changed.
Yeah.
And he had, I'm thinking of the rich young ruler, right? He told him what he needed to hear, and the rich young ruler said, sorry, can't do it.
Well, and you think about a lot of times that Jesus did. I mean, so think about Zacchaeus.
Yeah.
He's in the tree. And the one person that Jesus really recognized was Zacchaeus. How many people were out there?
Mm-hmm.
How many people actually responded to the gospel that day? How many people actually followed Jesus that day?
Arguably one.
At least one.
Yeah.
How many said no? A lot more than one.
Yep.
The analogy that Aaron had, the entire devotional was about being fishers of men. Matthew, was that Matthew 4? You're the Bible guy.
What is it?
Matthew 4, fishers of men.
That's late in Matthew chapter 4, I think.
It's like 4:19, right?
It's in Mark chapter 1 for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, so it was about being
and then
fishers.
Luke chapter 5.
Right. It's about being fishers of men. And like fishermen, they cast a whole bunch. That doesn't mean they always catch them.
Yeah.
As evangelists, we cast a whole bunch. That doesn't mean we're always going to get them. But if we build relationships, if we have strong, genuine relationships where the other person actually knows that we actually genuinely care about them, and we're always looking for those opportunities. We're always praying for those opportunities to have those relationships and to build that trust with somebody, right? That's when we evangelize.
And sort of as a precursor to next time, because this is what we're going to talk about more in the next episode, but when Jesus goes and gets a fisherman and turns them into fishers of men, he doesn't just go and get one. He goes and gets a group of 4, because Jesus is smart enough to know that a group of fishermen working together are going to catch a lot more than just one.
Right, because you have a lot of reels in the water opposed to just one.
And the expertise and the manpower and all these different things that you don't have if you're just by yourself.
Right. So in that kind of, it takes us to our last point. And I want to keep this fisherman analogy with us.
Okay.
What is the biggest characteristic that you need as a fisherman?
Patience.
Patience. I remember when I was a kid and we would go visit my grandparents out in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And my granddad, the thing that we always did, we always woke up before the sun did, and we went and drove out to the Tennessee River. Took about an hour and a half-ish to get out to the docks, and then we got on the water. And I remember being a little kid out on the Tennessee River, 90-plus degrees. I'm like, we go home.
About 5 minutes in, when you don't have 10 fish, you're like, okay, I'm done.
It's so hot. I just want to go home. And looking back, man, I wish I could just kick myself right in the throat. Because
you'll never get that time back.
I'll never get that time back.
Yep.
And the reason I didn't like it as a kid was I was a kid and I wasn't patient enough. I wanted the fish to bite right away. I wanted some action.
This is boring. We can't say anything.
I wanted some action. Yeah, that was. And looking back, kids are so stupid. When I was a kid, I'd start talking. My granddad like, shh, no hush, no hush.
I can see your granddad saying that.
But hey, Dad, hey, you heard him. Be quiet. I'm like, okay. Why do we have to be quiet? Because, son, you'll wake up the fish. You'll disturb the fish.
Yep.
And in my mind, I'm like, oh, okay, we can't be quiet. Okay, shh, we can't be quiet. I don't want to disturb the fish. They just wanted me to shut up. They just didn't want to listen to me.
Which, you're a kid, so yeah.
Right, yeah. And so, like, looking back, that's hilarious. But as a kid, ooh.
Yep.
But being patient is something that you got to pray for. It's one of those things that when God presents that opportunity to be patient, you have to capitalize on that opportunity.
It's a fruit of the Spirit.
You ain't kidding.
Fruit grow.
Yep. And it
they
takes
grow
a while.
from a source.
Yep.
If you don't have... to use Jesus' analogy in John chapter 15, I'm the vine, you're the branches.
1 Corinthians 3:6.
if you're not connected to the vine, if you're not connected to the person who makes things grow, I planted, Apollos watered, God gave the increase.
God gives the increase.
You're never going to see the growth that you need, including the patience that you need to fight for evangelism even when it's hard.
It's a process.
It is a process.
It's not something that happens overnight. If it does, that's awesome. If it happens
99 times out of 100, it's not.
It's not. It's going to be
and that's
a process.
not because it's not working, right? Just because you don't convert somebody on the first study or the first conversation about Jesus doesn't mean that they're not thinking about it. Doesn't mean that they haven't made more progress than you may even know about.
Right.
In
more
the first
often
time
than
that
not,
we talk about it.
More often than not, after that first study, their mind is spinning.
Yeah.
It is going 1,000 miles a minute, and they can't keep up.
So,
but
they're
thinking.
I've even said this before, and I don't mean this to say, like, if I convert somebody on the first study, it's a bad thing. But I've even said before, my goal on the first study is not to convert someone. My goal on the first study is to have a conversation about the Bible with someone and that not be weird.
Yeah, lay the groundwork.
Right.
Get a feel for where they're at.
Be honest, the first conversation you have with somebody about the Bible has a lot of potential to be weird. Has a lot of potential to be a touchy subject, something that people don't want to engage with and really open up about. So my goal the first time is not like, I'm going to get you all the way to the cross the very first time we talk. My goal is make this as not awkward as possible.
Yeah.
Like, just allow the dialogue to start.
Well, and especially if they come from, like, maybe a different religion.
Yeah.
It is a lot easier with somebody that is a denominational Christian.
Because at least they have some, like,
they have a basis
of knowledge.
Right.
They at least know that the Bible is something they should look at.
Well, one of my roommates in college, after I went to Freed-Hardeman, I went to Radford University, and he was Muslim.
Yeah, that's a very different conversation.
And him and I became very, very good friends. Like, I could probably call him right now, and we could have a very good conversation. Mm-hmm. He's a wonderful human being. He's a very good person, very easy to talk to.
Yep.
And him and I had multiple conversations about the differences between Islam and Christianity. Mm-hmm. Because from the bottom of my heart, I really wanted him to be a Christian.
Yeah.
That would have been like, I don't know. It would have been amazing. There was one day where we were both sitting in the living room and, we're both reading something. I think I was reading a book for a class, and he was just leisurely reading. And I looked at him and I was like, are we supposed to, like, really not like each other?
Yeah, you told me about
Like, don't you hate me? He's like, well, no. We just think differently. And I'm like, yeah. Why? And, dude, that opened up biggest can. We talked for hours.
Sometimes the deepest spiritual conversations that you'll have happen on accident.
It did. Mm-hmm. We sat there for hours, and we talked about the foundations and just really the fundamentals of each religion.
Yeah.
We believe in the same God. We just do it very differently.
Yeah.
And
very differently.
And I still pray for him. I still think about him. He's a very good guy that was just raised very differently.
Yep.
And it's understanding that people come from all different types of upbringings, different parts of the world. Like, he's from Sudan.
Yeah. But to your point about patience, you may never know the impact of that conversation you had with him. It could be 20 years from now, and he'll call you because he's been thinking about.
Dude, there were a few times where I thought, I did it. And man, I really hope.
Yep.
But it's all about patience, and it's all about giving God the glory. I've seen it before, and I hope I never see it again, where I've met someone bragging about how many people they've baptized.
That's not the point.
It's not. I've seen that, and it hurt when I saw it. It was at Freed-Hardeman. It's not a perfect place. It's a wonderful place. Go Lions. But I saw that, and it hurt a little bit because, like, yes, those people are not Christians. That is wonderful. But what is your intention? And let me tell you, it is our hope. It is our prayer that your intention, our intention,
is to glorify God.
Is to glorify God and to spread His word.
When you have that last conversation with Christ at the end of time, He's not going to pull up a spreadsheet. He's not going to say, okay, you baptized this many, but you committed this many sins, so this is the equation on how you did, right? That's not the point. I don't know exactly what He's going to say. But if I had to guess, based on the Bible, not my opinion, but based on what He talks about, what He's going to ask is, did you live for me? And it's not going to be a numbers conversation. It's not going to be a conversation about specifics.
It's not going to be percentages.
It's not going to be, nope. Yeah. It's not going to be these baptisms offset these sins, or these, like, you gave to the poor this many times, so that offsets this many
it's going to be yes or no.
times you didn't.
It's going to be yes or no.
Did you live for me?
Yep. And we're doing our best. We hope you're doing your best. If you're not, and you want help, let us know.
Or let somebody know.
Or
talk to somebody. Talk to a Christian that you trust.
Yeah.
Somebody who you know will give you the biblical answer. And do it in love.
Yep.
Because that's evangelism at the end of the day. That's what it is. Speaking the truth in love.
And if this is a tool of evangelism, great.
That's sort of the point.
Yep. But what we want, our goal, is to supply knowledge and information from different perspectives so that you can do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But just out there. Maybe without a microphone. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or
to the people you love, to the people you know.
Yeah. Or start your own podcast and we can be rivals. I don't know.
That would always be fun.
Yeah.
Steve, we're coming for you.
You didn't leave us, but hey.
But you are competition. I'll just say this as sort of a closing thought on personal evangelism. We said earlier, like, if you're looking for reasons that people aren't worthy of the gospel, you'll find them. If you're looking for reasons that they are, you'll find them.
Yeah.
If you don't know who to evangelize to, think about it for about 15 seconds.
Yeah.
You'll come up with somebody.
Yeah.
Start there. It's not hard. I mean, I just thought about it for 5. I came up with 3 people.
Yeah.
Who I know who are not Christians who could be.
Don't do it because you have to. You do have to.
But do it because you love God and you love them.
Yep. Because you want to.
Yep.
Well, we want to thank you so much for being with us on this episode of the Valley Bible Studies podcast. We look forward to kind of elaborating more on evangelism, but from a congregational perspective.
Starting next week or next episode, we get into the church.
Yes.
And for a good chunk of the pod, from starting next time, we're going to be talking a lot about the church.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for talking about the church.
Very looking forward to that. Kind of what the church should look like, what it does look like. Yeah. It's going to be good stuff. Good stuff. So stay tuned. But again, thank you so much for being with us on this time in this episode. And we will see you in 2 weeks.
See you later.